Saturday. Christmas comes early.
Unbelievable! Welcome to this incredible scene.
Bills.
To the end zone!
Chargers.
It's a touchdown!
An exclusive NFL game.
That's fantastic!
Live in primetime.
Wow!
Only on Peacock.
With a Christmas gift to their fans.
They're having some fun now.
Bills versus Chargers. Saturday, 7:30 Eastern. Exclusively on Peacock.
Hey, yo, what's up? It's City News. Did you know you have the power to save lives? More than 100,000 people in the United States are waiting for a life-saving organ transplant, and 60% are from the Black community. And I know you've heard some myths about organ donation, right? Well, here are some facts. There's no age limit, and there's no cost to be a donor, and everyone can register to be a donor, even if you have health problems. So go ahead and register your decision, and then talk to your family about donation. Learn more at lifelineofohio.org. My name is City News, and I'm an organ donor. And remember, 0 lives get saved if we do nothing.
Thanks for choosing this free Anfield Index podcast. If you'd prefer to listen to this or any of our other shows without adverts, then now's the time to check out Anfield Index Pro. With AI Pro, you can supercharge your entire listening experience. You'll not only get all of our podcasts without the ads, but you'll have them far faster with our Quick Publish feature available exclusively for subscribers. AI Pro also puts you in the heart of our sound studio, with an option to listen to many of our shows live and interact with the podcasters in real time as the shows are recording. Upgrading couldn't be easier. AI Pro is available on all popular podcast platforms, and we have our own apps for Apple and Android. Just head on over to AnfieldIndexPro.com and get started today.
Hello and welcome to Post-Match Raw, the normal edition. It's not the Cup edition with me this time, but Trev is busy doing Christmas things on the 23rd, so I'm stepping in. And my first question and my first welcome is to Dave. Dave, did you enjoy William Saliba's man of the match performance?
It's a magnificent thing when the fourth best centre-back on the pitch gets man of the match. And the best centre-back by a country mile, who saw off not only the greatest left-winger the game has ever seen, but also the best, it doesn't matter if he doesn't score, number 9 the game has ever seen, all by himself, doesn't get even a fraction of the praise. What a wonderful game Jamie Carragher and Gary Neville watched in their own heads.
Yes, Jim, did you enjoy the incessant wanking section we just had for 95 minutes?
I was wondering what the noises were. Every so often you get these noises, and I couldn't tell if it was pleasure or pain, but maybe it was a bit of both for them.
It really was a weird game. But Jim, how are you anyway over there? We'll talk about Saliba. Well, we might not even do that because Saliba was barely involved in the game. But Jim, how are you anyway?
I'm doing well. I mean, this is the time of year when everyone says, are you ready? I've got everything done, all set for Christmas. Yeah, I'm all set for Christmas. I just wish I was all set for it with us top of the table. But, you know, at least we got a point. At least we didn't lose. At least the unbeaten thing goes on. So, not bad. Yeah,
absolutely. And Dave, I mean, first question really, is it a point gained or 2 points dropped?
I think it's 2 points dropped because we're at home and we were the better team. And we outplayed them for big stretches, and we missed a couple of really good chances. One obviously being the Trent one, but you know we had other breaks where we ran at them and the final ball was wrong, or someone let the ball run under their feet, or Mo stood on the ball once while dribbling. Mo seemed to get space jammed at half time, which is a really weird thing. I think it's 2 points dropped, but what I will say is, I'd actually rather be second at Christmas, given our history of being first at Christmas in the Premier League. We've been first 5 times and only have 1 league title. Now, I know we only have 1 league title in the Premier League era regardless, but I would rather be second. And because I don't think Arsenal will play well with the pressure on them. I think that's what gets to them. It's easier for them when they're the underdogs. In the same way, it's easier for us when we're the underdogs. Because if you don't win it, well, you weren't really expected to win it. So I think once the pressure starts to mount on them, if we're a point behind them with 10 games to go, barring City overhauling both, we're winning the league because they're not as good as we are. We're missing a bunch of players today. We had two of our starters turn in really poor performances. We got the worst substitution performance I've ever seen in my entire life. And yet they were still having to time waste and slow the game down and heavily reliant on really poor refereeing throughout that game.
Yeah, it was like 12 against 9 men at times. But we'll come on to that as we go. I mean, Jim, we know the teams. We probably expected the Liverpool team, except Darwin not starting. I mean, what did you make of the decision? And if you were to start Darwin, would you have sacrificed Gakpo or Diaz?
I think just about anyone I've spoken to who's a Liverpool fan has said, let Diaz sit this next one out. He's not in his best form at the moment. And what we saw from Nunez in midweek was a player who can play on the left. So let's give him a go. And it's not the first time we've seen that. So I think most of us were asking for it. But what we asked for and what Klopp does isn't always the same. And to be fair, on the whole, it works out probably quite well because it does work out well. So I wasn't surprised that Diaz started, but I was kind of slightly disappointed that I thought it would have been a good one for Nunez to get into straight from the off in that game as well, in that fixture. He's on a yellow as well, so I feel like, let him get his yellow in this game, let him miss the next game, but let's get the money's worth out of that yellow. Sorry, he's on a yellow, one more yellow when he's suspended for a game. Mm-hmm. And also, there's a lot of talk from different people. Again, should we stick Gomez at right back and let Trent play in the middle from the off? That didn't happen. That was something I thought might happen. But when I say might, it was such a tenuous idea given the way the subs were at the weekend. I think as you look at the team, you see it's pretty much what you would have expected. I mean, the one shout I had was for Jones to start. I thought he should have started last weekend, especially with it being the game against the Manx and what it means for local players, as Steven Gerrard kind of thing. But I don't know if there was like a Jones camp and an anti-Jones camp, like there always seems to be on these things. The anti-Jones camp might have had a little bit to say today. I don't think he did too bad, but he didn't quite live up to what I was hoping for from him. I
thought he was really good, to be fair. Maybe not as fast as midweek, but pressing, defensively.
But we as a team weren't as fast as midweek.
Yeah.
But I thought from about 15 minutes in up until he got taken off, I thought Jones was excellent. Yeah. Him and Endo absolutely ran that Arsenal, and Dom obviously, they ran over that Arsenal midfield over and over and over again. They couldn't live with us when we were playing at that pace. And then Jurgen just completely killed our midfield by bringing on Gravenberch.
I think that's one of the things. I mean, I'm saying this about Jones. I think just a couple of times when he, my expectations were really high. He wasn't as good as he was in midweek, but he was still good. But I think there was just a couple of bad choices at times with the ball. But that's the Liverpool way lately, isn't it? You do all the great stuff really well, then it's just that last bit that's not quite right. And Dom wasn't quite as good as he was in midweek, but still did well. And I've written it down somewhere. I mean, the substitutes just finished us off. It was, I've never seen it. It was like Jekyll and Hyde, two different teams with those subs, and it can't all be down to them. I don't know whether anything was given to them in by way of instructions about, I don't know. It just like the batteries run out.
It just killed our flow, didn't it? I think it was a bit weird, but we'll come on to them as we happen. I mean, Dave, your thoughts on the Arsenal side, and obviously continue on the Liverpool side if you want to.
The Arsenal team, I was surprised he was arrogant enough to go with Havertz in midfield, if I'm honest. Mm-hmm. But he didn't really have any option because they're a bit light in midfield at the moment. You look at their bench, and I know Jorginho is there, but he's been out the last little while with an injury, so he probably didn't want to risk him starting at Anfield. You're not going to play Leandro Trossard at Anfield in midfield, where he's played once or twice this season. Mohamed El Neni, he's just back from multiple long-term injuries. Yeah. So the other, what was it, Emile Smith-Rowe? Like, he's even more lightweight.
He's played there like once, hasn't he?
Once. Like, he could have played Kivor maybe at left back and put Zinchenko in midfield. But I don't think he had much choice. Like, that team doesn't scare me at all. Like, there's not enough goals in that team. The midfield is lightweight outside of Rice. And the defence, I think they're soft. And I think if we'd had Darwin from the start today against White and Saliba, I think he would have had a lot of a lot of good things because, like, we barely challenged them. We barely went at them, and yet we'll go through this game. There's a number of opportunities that both Cody and Diaz could have taken advantage of going up against those two, and they were both really poor. So if Darwin had played as well as he did midweek, I do think he would have had joy. Like, he came on, he ran White down the flank a couple of times. Saliba had to come across and foul him. They didn't like dealing with him at all.
Tackled him once.
Jesus Christ. Oh, Lord. That was probably the only tackle he made in the whole,
he skinned like 6 people. They Grafenberg tackled him.
Absolute clown. But no, it's a good team. Like, they're a good team, but they don't scare me. They're not better than us. Man for man, they're not better than us. So I'm a little, like I said, I'm disappointed with the 2 points dropped, but I'm really heartened by our performance from 15 up until the subs, because even with Gakpo and Diaz not playing well, and even with the referee giving them every single little thing that they asked for, I still thought we were comfortably the better team for that stretch of the game.
Yeah, absolutely. And you've mentioned the start a few times, Dave, so I'll stick with you. It's obviously probably the most key part of the game, because we do start quite nervy anyway. I mean, Alisson parries a low cross where he could have either just left it or probably gathered it, to be fair. And then 4 minutes in, they score. And we're usually so good at defending set pieces, if I can speak. Reese's pieces there. To concede such a sloppy goal off a set piece, like, our offside line is a mess. Ibu, probably the only thing Ibu did wrong apart from his late game Matip adventure. He loses Gabriel, but the offside line, I mean, it's Gakpo. I don't know why. I know he's tall, but he shouldn't be back there defending set pieces like that. He's not Firmino.
No, it's Gakpo in the middle and it's Endo at the back. They're the two that break our line. Ibu does what he should do. He holds the line. Unfortunately for him, the fella behind him doesn't do his job and goes with the runners and plays them all onside. Like, there was 3 Arsenal players that he played onside. So I got the commentary with Ibu getting criticised for it as well. And then at half-time, I was watching Being Sport, and you had McAteer and Andy Gray criticising him for losing the man. He didn't lose the man. He let the man run offside, and Cody Gakpo played him onside. So I would put that more at Gakpo's feet than at Ibu's feet. But we did start really nervy. And I think we were almost taken aback by how intense they were in that first 5 minutes. Like, they really did fly out of the traps, and credit to them, because often we've seen them come to Anfield and shit themselves. Now, last season, obviously, they came and started really well as well. But it was never a case where I thought, oh, God, we're not going to get a goal here, because you can see the holes in that team, and we could clearly overwhelm them when we went up through the gears.
Yeah, and if you mentioned 15-minute mark, it's when we started to play. But Jim, I mean, anything you want to add on to their goal before we talk about us actually starting to play?
Yeah, I mean, the one thing that jumped out at me was, my God, yeah, we've scored, we've conceded so early. We do this a lot in games. You know, we sort of go into a game where we sort of wait for something to happen. We don't really seem to be in any hurry to make anything happen ourselves. And, you know, we get frustrated watching as we're not scoring goals. And how many times have Liverpool gone behind? Apparently we've got 19. We've won 19 games. Oh, sorry, we've got a point from 19. Well, I forget what the stat is, but what the stat basically is a lot of the time.
Top of that stat, yeah.
Yeah. I think it's actually, we've got 19 points from being behind in games. So it shows we do it a lot. And I just felt, you know, why aren't we the ones coming out the trap? Really, really, you know, we've bigged up this game all week as how big it is. We've talked about getting the crowd on the back of the players, you know, on the side of the players, on 12th man and all the rest of it. And then we just come out just looking shell-shocked almost. And I just didn't understand that. But on the other hand, I thought, look, goals happen in football. Even when you're playing really well, goals can happen for whatever reason. And it's always how you react to it. And that seemed to be the right way we went about it. Then I think once we realised what was going on, we're behind, we need to get back into this. This was different Liverpool performance, at least up until, I don't know, well, probably till the subs came on. The whole crowd was loud, or it seemed to be. You can't be totally sure with TV whether they're altering the volume these days, but it seems to be very loud, very much behind the players, very much, putting pressure on the ref with decisions and all the rest of it, as it should be. And I just thought to myself, if Man United had managed to score one of those counters that they had, we probably would have won that game, because it kind of felt like, it's that thing that we need something all the time to kick us into action. And once we've got the something, we can be really good. And, I just thought, well, 4 minutes in, we've got to do it. We've got to react. We've got to come back from behind. And, okay, in the end, it was only one and it was only a draw. But I was really encouraged with that reaction to it. It was just... I'm not sure it was, probably in the second half, I'm thinking to myself, the way we're pressing, the way we're tackling, the way we're winning the ball back is as good as I've seen us doing that in all the time Klopp's been here. But it's that thing, it's what happens next, and that's what's let us down today. And, we shouldn't have to wait for something to happen to get our hackles up and be ready to attack a team. That shouldn't happen. I don't know why that keeps happening. But once we do react, we're good. But at the moment, I just wish we'd have some better decisions, in that last bit of play.
Yeah, that will be a point of frustration as we get throughout the bloody season, not just today, but yeah, we'll get to them.
We've even talked about being frustrated. Every game we've won, we've talked about frustration at some point in the game, I would say. There's not been many games we've looked back on and gone, my God, that was great from start to finish.
That's the thing. Room to grow, though. Room to grow. Dave, just to come to you quickly, probably the last overly negative thing from the game, hopefully. Paul Joyce just tweeted, Liverpool fear Costa Simicas has suffered a suspected broken collarbone.
And you know what? When sorry for putting him. When you watch the replay on that, he had already hit the deck with his shoulder before he hit Klopp. And the way it's being laughed off as if it was something, it was okay because, it's just one of those things. Klopp just happened to be stood there. That's what's made it. It wasn't. If Klopp had been sat on the bench, he'd have been needing hospital after that. And I don't know how we didn't. I still don't know why that wasn't a yellow myself. At least.
Yeah, that was a blatant yellow card. Mm-hmm. Like, it's a blatant shove by Saka with only the intention to hurt a player. There's no other reason you'd shove like that there. And it was fairly obvious straight away that it was something quite serious. You could see as Costas was being tended to that he was in a lot of pain. And then when he stood up, you could tell that it was either collarbone or shoulder, something was gone. Yeah. And then obviously we got the commentator saying he's been taken to the hospital. That's immediately you're thinking, okay, that's definitely something's going to have him out for the next couple of months.
Yeah, I think Robbo's reportedly back January, isn't he? So the two young lads haven't looked the greatest at left back, but what is it, Burnley next, then Newcastle? So maybe Gomez against Newcastle, one of the young lads against Burnley.
Yeah. I thought Gomez did pretty well at left back. I could still make complaints here and there, but I thought he did really well. And I think it's fortuitous in a way that in the League Cup game the other day we gave him a half on each side of the back four. It worked out. It worked out quite well to have that little bit of a run out just in advance. I think it suits him actually playing on the left as a left back, especially when he realises that he can actually shoot with his right foot.
The goal's coming. It's coming eventually. Right. Anyway, into the good stuff. And Dave, I'll come to you. As you've mentioned a few times, we did start playing from about 10, 15 minutes in. And it starts with Endo doing a really nice pass out of Diaz. And I did mention the last negative thing, but it's kind of where the story began with Diaz. Like, he gets isolated with their fullback, which is Ben White. I mean, he's fine, but he's not exactly Maldini. And he just never looks to do anything other than win a corner, which he does.
Yeah, that's literally the only thing he does because he's not an elite attacking fullback. He just isn't. He's comfortable on the ball, but more so in his own half. He does well down there right because they've got Odegaard and Saka, who are both elite players who draw defenders and create a lot of space for Ben White. But you wouldn't be overly concerned about Ben White rampaging into your half. It's just we gave him some opportunities early on, I thought, to get forward, and we didn't pin him back well enough.
Yeah, that's the thing. That is the thing. I think we just didn't. Everything seemed to be down the right. Like Trent obviously favours that side, but he was playing as the quarterback, centre back type thing, where he was most effective. Dom was dominant on the right hand side, but Jones was doing a fair bit on the left, I thought. But yeah, the left hand side just didn't really get involved at all. And when more, you kind of want to attack Zinchenko because he's the weaker one, but you do need to mix it up now and again. Yeah, so our first chance, Jim, on 13 minutes where Gakpo, it's like a wishful, wantful cross. Gakpo heads it on to Mo. He probably should do better, but it's a difficult angle, but it's a bit of a shit finish.
The holidays start here at Kroger with a variety of options to celebrate traditions old and new. You could do a classic herb-roasted turkey or spice it up and make turkey tacos. Serve up a go-to shrimp cocktail, or use Simple Truth wild-caught shrimp for your first Cajun risotto. Make creamy mac and cheese, or a spinach artichoke fondue from our selection of Murray's cheese. No matter how you shop, Kroger has all the freshest ingredients to embrace all your holiday traditions. Kroger, fresh for everyone.
Are you that person who has everything? The coolest merch and those must-have fan threads? Well, over at our Anfield Index shop, we've gone that extra mile when it comes to pimping up your Liverpool collection. From our popular range of bespoke design t-shirts, sweaters, hoodies and hats, to our signature edition mugs, prints and coasters, all provided with fast worldwide shipping. We have something for every red. We also stock official LFC merchandise and are licensed with the Premier League and UEFA to sell official iron-on shirt badges and sleeve patches. As a listener to this podcast, you can get 10% off everything with coupon code AIPRO10. Just head over to AnfieldIndex.shop or find us on Etsy by searching for Anfield Index.
I mean, I'm just about to have a go at Mo Salah for his finishing, and I can't even unmute a microphone. But I think this has been a bit of a worry with Mo recently. I don't know what the stats are, and sometimes things can seem worse than they are. And here I am being negative again. But he's not finishing the way he used to do, all with one huge exception today. And this is another example. There was an example in midweek when Nunez hit the post and it came out to Salah, and you just think any other time Salah would have scored that, and he didn't. And this seems to be happening a lot, which is a little bit of a worry, but it's not a massive worry in the sense that we won't have him soon anyway, so let's make the most of him when we've got him. But it was a sign of intent. I think that was maybe this is the point, was it, where we really started, to wake up, whatever you want to call it, to start looking like we're actually interested in getting something out of this game, and maybe having the confidence to think we can get something out of this game. Maybe we'd overhyped how good they were in our own minds or something. I don't know. We just seemed timid to me until then. But I think this was the point where, it kind of showed us that there's ways through this lot. There's ways we can do it. And I think, to be fair to Mo, you sort of don't expect him to miss too many like that.
Yeah, probably should do better. My next note, Mo tries to dribble like three people. Should have passed it to Dominic when we were breaking on the right-hand side. But Dave, my next note, handball, fucking surely. Because Martin Odegaard decides to have a cheeky bit of basketball. I mean, Dave, I saw you on Twitter and obviously on WhatsApp. It's a scandalous decision.
It's a disgraceful decision. And I don't care that he slipped. Him slipping is not the reason he handled the ball. He handled the ball because his hand was down there. It is a scandalous decision. It is a blatant handball. I don't know how the referee is looking at it, how he doesn't see it, and then how doesn't the VAR interject? Like, how do you look at that and not think that's an unnatural position for his hand to be in? And the fact is, he scoops the ball as well.
He plays for it, doesn't he? He
hit his
plays
hand.
for the ball with his hand.
he actually moves his hand with it's a shambles of a decision. And it reminds me of last season at the Emirates, where Diogo Jota goes into their box on the right-hand side, lifts the ball over Gabriel. Gabriel has his hand up doing some sort of Big Bird impression and slaps at the ball, and we don't get the decision because it wasn't, or it was deemed an accidental handball from a natural position. There's nothing natural about where these arms are. But that's 2 years in a row now. They have been gifted a refereeing decision. 2 years in a row. It's an absolute shambles. And it's constant with them. Like, you'll rarely see a referee and a team of officials be as heavily one-sided on 50-50s as that referee was in their favour today. And then you have this blatantly obvious handball and they don't get punished for it. If that was us, that's a certainty of a penalty, and none of us could have complained. Not one of us could have complained if it had been given against us. But the fact is they get favourable decisions on a regular basis. And the reason they do is because the fella in their dugout cries all the time about how unfairly they're treated. And because they had one iffy decision go against them with Ivan Toney last season, they're now getting away constantly. Like against United, they got gifted a goal when Gabriel clearly fouls Johnny Evans, who then can't get out to Declan Rice, and Rice scores and they go on and win the game. That goal should have been ruled out. There's been a couple more this season, but that's another blatantly obvious one. This can't be that hard, refs. This can't be that hard. You've got eyeballs, and now you've got replay. Like, at the very least, he should have been told to go and look at the replay. It's so blatantly obvious. It's actually sickening.
I can see occasions when you get decisions like this and you hear pundits, ex-refs, the likes of us argue yes and no against it, and you can sort of half imagine why people are saying it wasn't a pen and the accidental stuff and stuff. But that's because then you start looking at all the angles and you say, hang on, there's a doubt here that should have been a pen. Surely there is enough of a doubt there to say either in the VAR room to say no, I'm convinced it was a pen, or you might have missed something here, ref, and I think you better go and have another look. And that's the frustration for me. The screen's there for a reason. If it's an absolutely blatant penalty that no one in the world can argue with, you don't even need to send it to the screen. But in situations like this, send it to the screen, let the ref have another look. And it just smacks again as the guy in the VAR room defending his mate out on the pitch. They must have a little tally of favours for each other.
To be honest, Jim, I think it's in that secondary category. I don't even think it should be sent to the screen. I think that's obvious. That's a good tackle in basketball. It
is obvious, and that's what I'm saying. It's obvious, and I'm always giving them a get out by saying at least go to the screen with it. But yeah, it looked to me. I mean, I don't know. It's the sort of thing you see when the whistle's already gone and they just try and catch the ball. Yeah. It's that it was an obvious play for the ball, and if he'd have lost the pen, the player would have had his head in his hands and everything, but he would have had his head in his hands because he knew he'd had a moment of madness and given away a pen, because it wasn't a bad decision. If it had been a pen, it wouldn't have been a bad decision.
And the knock-on effect of that is Odegaard gets a booking 10 minutes after this, I think. Obviously, it won't be the exact same game, but then he's playing on a yellow card for much longer. Their midfield's getting played through quite a lot, especially the second half. Probably from this moment onwards, we dominant in the whole game, really. Till the subs. So it makes him play different. Saka, can't remember the time Tsimikas got injured, 32. Saka should have got booked there, and then should have probably got another booking on that one where he slipped, which is another great excuse for nearly two-footing someone.
Oh, that's mad.
Yeah.
Because aren't you supposed to be in control, and I think you're not in control if you slip like that. That's not just an innocuous slip, but...
It's just nonsense. Absolutely nonsense. But, yeah, Odegaard probably lucky to stay on, because that's a Stonewall yellow, that pen. Or should be pen. Saka lucky again. Just such a frustrating. And the annoying thing is, I think Chris Kavanagh's one of the better refs usually, or one of the less offensive refs, because I think we were all worried going into the City game about him because he's from Manchester, and he had a perfectly great game, or perfectly fine game, I should say. It just there's never one referee where you just go dependable, because next time we have Chris Kavanagh, I'll remember this Arsenal game.
Yeah, he's probably been absolutely bollocked by the locals in his pub, which is I think 5 miles away from the Etihad, for not going hard enough on Liverpool in that last game. So he's probably felt he needs to even the score a bit. I mean, I am joking, but then none of that sounds far-fetched, really, does it either? No. And how rarely do you get the crowd shouting, "You mank bastard," at a referee? He got to that stage, it was crazy. Anyway, my next note is... no, it's the goal, actually. Christ. Almost Mr. Biggie there. Dave, coming to you first. I mean, you have obviously issues with Trent in this system, but this is the pro of it, because he's our quarterback. I agree. I don't like the false right back thing, but if we find a place in midfield, maybe a diamond or whatever, this is what he can do, because that is a sensational all-timer pass.
My issue isn't with Trent. My issue is with what happens around Trent. Mm-hmm. And I thought for spells in that first half, we were far too passive because everything was being passed to Trent rather than other players taking a bit of responsibility. My issue is how it has a negative knock-on effect on players like Szoboszlai, who's now asked to be a defensive midfielder down the right-hand side and play as a wing-back. My issue is, how much Konate is being asked to do. The fact that today he had to man-mark Martinelli and also help out on Jesus. That's what my issue is. It's not Trent. Because, like you said, we could just move Trent into midfield and play him there and play a box midfield with a back four and just play two up front. Because currently we don't have three players good enough to warrant playing a front three. Mm-hmm. And he showed the range of passing. Obviously, he came on against West Ham and he played a ludicrous assist while falling over. And then today, that pass is just incredible. Like, I know Zinchenko's not the best defensive player in the world, but it wouldn't matter who you had at left back there. You could have David Alaba in his prime, and he was still getting done up like a kipper with that pass. The weight, the fade on it, it's absolutely perfect. And from there, it's brilliant by Salah. And as we were talking about in the WhatsApp group with Rory and Joe and Stu and the lads, you're looking at it and you're thinking, that's the Mo goal. Like, that's the goal he always used to score. And as Stu said, it feels like it's been about 18 months since we saw him score that type of goal, where he stands the fullback up, beats them on the inside, and just beats the keeper with power, rather than, he's been hesitant to take the fullback on at times. And when he starts to come back outside, he almost takes too many touches and comes too far out and ends up having to clip across to the back post. Whereas today, that is vintage Mo Salah, and it's a stunning goal, absolutely stunning goal. From the pass from Trent to Salah to the strike, it's just brilliant.
Yeah, Jim, same for you. It's a sensational pass, sensational finish, and when we play with pace and a bit of directness, it's what we can do. You get more isolated rather than cutting into free players. It's just that's what I want. That's what I want this Liverpool team to be. It's what it used to be, just directness, like a Van Dijk diagonal, a Trent smashed pass like that. It's what I want us to be. But that is bloody sensational, that goal.
Yeah, and it just turns the game around, doesn't it? I mean, they're trying to attack, and when you can get passes like this, it can change defence into attack so quick. And what I also like when you watch the replays, I mean, obviously you're focusing on Salah, but when you look, I think it was Gakpo had got into a great position on the edge of the box, and that meant Salah actually had a choice. He could do what he did, and I'm glad he did, but he also had the chance to pass to Gakpo, who was, I think, pretty much unmarked, and as long as Salah passed with anything remotely useful to Gakpo probably would have scored. And that all comes from that ability that Trent's got to create those balls, and that knowingness, if you like, that sort of sense from Salah that it's worth him making that run. Because, I mean, as you're watching it in real time, you start to think, has he overhit that a bit? but he hadn't. It was so perfect. I mean, I don't play golf, but I can imagine people who play golf will talk about, hitting balls like this, and it just was the perfect weight. But the thing is, there was still work for Salah to do at the end of it. But the thing is, unless you make those passes, on Salah's day, when Salah's playing to his best, that's the kind of stuff he can do. But he can't do it if you don't give him the chances to do it. And far too often we've not done that. I mean, I have been critical of Salah lately, and I'll probably be a little bit critical in some ways about some of his game today. But, he's such an amazing player. And that's the thing about Mo as well. I think you can have games where you look back and you think, over 90 minutes... If you watched an edit of a game and you edited out 2 goals that he'd scored, you'd think, God, what did he do in this game? Well, put the 2 goals back in and you realise what he did, and it can be frustrating in a game to think he's done nothing, but he's one of those players who can make something out of nothing, or he can make something out of something like tonight. I mean, I think with Trent, it's quite clearly, if Trent was playing in midfield and we had a right back, then that's the kind of thing Trent could do more often. I think, as Dave says, it's just this halfway house. It's just not. I think. I mean, I've been saying it for a while now. We've got to stop the experiments. And I think as the game went on, it looked like Trent was sticking out to the right a lot more. And I do wonder because it's happened in previous games. I do wonder if maybe the plan had been today that Gomez would come on later on as right back and Trent would move into a more central position, full time. I just think. There was a talk as well. I heard someone mention he's kind of playing more of a centre-back role at times, and that would make some sense with Trent to allow him to sort of play in the middle, but to know he's got to get back and cover and join part of the back four, maybe in a slightly different position to normal, but at least cover it. But to do that, you've got to have whichever centre-back's being pushed out there able to do it. And I think, that's asking a lot of Ibu, because it's generally him, to be doing all that extra work. Although, I mean, let's mention him now as well. Ibu today. Yeah, I was going to bring him up. I think he was outstanding. I mean, he's maturing as a player. He's getting better in my view. And but again, I think what do we get? We have Trent. Is he a right back? Is he midfield? And we kind of ended up with a jack of all trades, master of none, if we're not careful. We've seen it. McAllister being played where he shouldn't be played, and we're getting a weaker version of McAllister. We don't end up with a weaker version of Ibu, but over time maybe it'll work out. But I think. When Liverpool have games, and this has happened for years and years and years, you see where the fullbacks might swap sides after a corner and they stay on that side, and it kind of does sometimes sort of catch the other side out a little bit because it's not in the game plan that they've had, it's not in their expectations. But you can make these changes for little spells in games now and again and surprise the opposition. But there's no team coming to Anfield that hasn't got a game plan that says, for the bits where Trent's in the middle, do this. For the bits where Trent's out wide, do that. They know it's going to be one or both at some point in the game, so they prepare for it. Yeah. It was. I mean, God, these passes. These are. If it was. Can you imagine when he was David Beckham and everyone was like losing themselves over that in the press about how Beckham was with his passing? And yeah, I don't know. He's on another level. We're lucky to have him.
It feels like
just don't want to waste him.
That's the. It feels like he's obviously in the Liverpool fandom. He gets all the praise, but generally, like even today, they'll wank on about him being shit defensively. And it's like
you see him today. He did some amazing stuff today when he needed to.
It's like we have a generational player. Don't care about defense. Well, I do care about defense, but just say player. We have one of the generational English who usually get nothing but praise and security from everyone in English media, whether it's newspapers, etc. And they just can't pick faults. When you look at the stuff he can do, it's like he's a generational player.
If he was playing for Arsenal doing what he does for us, he'd be, he'd have his own statue in London by now.
If he was playing for United,
yeah.
If he was playing for United, Gary Neville is responsible for most of the narrative around Trent, because Gary Neville for years has nitpicked at everything Trent has done defensively, as if Gary Neville was Paolo Maldini or Lilian Thuram. Gary Neville was the weak link in a Manchester United back four for pretty much his entire career.
Gary Neville's worrying someone's going to take his. Gary Neville's worrying someone's going to take his title of best ever English right back off him, but he didn't have the title to start with.
No, well, that's the thing. He didn't. Like, Gary Neville has as many caps as he does because Rob Jones got injured and no other reason. But Trent, you go back and you watch our team in 18-19, 19-20 and 21-22, when for those 3 years we had the best defence in England. And in 2 of those years, we had the best defensive record across all top 5 European countries. You cannot have that good a defensive record if you've got a liability in your team. You can't. Trent, he was never a great defender, but he was an average defender capable of having good defensive games, who also happens then to be the greatest attacking fullback that the game has ever seen. And it's not even close. Like, he is lapping the field. And you can put up Dani Alves' assist numbers all you want. If all Trent had to do was pass it 5 yards to Messi, he'd have gotten 30 assists a season. So I don't want to hear about Dani Alves. I don't want to hear about Cafu or Carlos or any of them. None of them could do what Trent can do, but he could do what all of them could do. This is, without doubt, the most talented English player of this entire generation.
Yeah.
The fella in midfield for them today had a good game, but it was just a good game. He was no better than Endo, you know? Yeah. And yet we're going to hear about how he's transformed Arsenal. Like, Jamie Carragher said he was the most important player to his team in the league recently.
A bargain.
This idea that he's come in, a bargain at 105 million. Can I just point out, we hear all this talk that Manchester City have fallen off from last season. If City win their next game, they'll be 5 points worse off than they were after 18 games last season. Arsenal are currently 6 points worse off than they were after 18 games. So what transformation have they had? They score less, they concede more than this time last year. Rice is a good player. At times a very good player. Trent is a great player. And what Trent did today, and what Trent does every single game, is far more impressive than what Rice does. The English players that should be held aloft above everybody are Trent, Bukayo Saka, Jude Bellingham, and Phil Foden. Plus, of course, Harry Kane, but he's older than the rest. He's obviously a very special player, best 9 in the world. But those other 4, they should be held aloft and protected by the English media, because we've all watched England play for years and years and years, and we've seen a lot of great players come through the English ranks and do very well. We've never had as unique a talent come into the England team, and I say you have never had such a unique talent come into the England team as Trent, who can do what he does from that position. It is incredible to me that he is not held as the standard that English footballers should be looking to get to. All this nonsense. Phil Foden has completed football. He's done this and this and this. Yeah, Trent also has done all of that and was actually a really important part of all of that for his team, as opposed to Phil Foden, who was a squad player in the league and Champions League last season. Trent was the driving force creatively of his team when they won a European Cup and a league title and all the other pots and pans. And yet you've just got this weird group of people that want to disparage him. Kieran Trippier has gifted 4 goals and missed a penalty in a shootout in the last 2 and a bit weeks. And we had national journalists say that we should feel sorry for him because he's tired. Trent isn't tired. Like, what the fuck is that about? Like,
how many games has Trent played?
There's just a weird narrative around Trent, and I blame Neville for all of it.
He's sort of. He would love to be Alexander Arnold. He'd love to do what Trent does. He'd love for his career to be look back on in the same way. Yeah, everyone looks back, and I'm sure you think the same guy, that everyone looks back at Neville as the kind of, he was almost in there because he was the local lad. He wasn't the best player by any means, and maybe what got him through was passion more than anything. And how he got into England so often, I don't know. Don't care. It's only England. There's players in every team maybe that are like that, and the thing is, maybe Trent has got that side to him. He's a local lad. He's got the passion, but the thing is, he's got all of that skill on top, all of those skill sets.
Well, it's weird for me because I did see a fair amount on Neville, but his peak must have been 98 to 2004, something like that. So my main Trent comparison is probably Kyle Walker, and I know he has the exceptional speed and stuff like that, but I've not seen many footballers be able to do what Trent does, never mind a right back. And I know, Dave, you always mention Zanetti and the greats and stuff like that. But in terms of my Premier League viewing, I mean, the best of the fullbacks is like Ashley Cole, etc. So there's no one I can compare him to. He's just a sensational footballer.
There hasn't been one in England. What Trent is, he's like a cross between Zanetti at right back and Juan Varane in midfield. But he can do both. And he has the best of everything. He's also quicker than either of them. And he's a better crosser than either of them. Like, he's a really special player. And it infuriates me that he is not protected more. Like, if he played for any other club, I genuinely think the media narrative around him would be so different. So different.
Steven Gerrard got a lot of, well, he was up and down, but he was kind of loved by the English press as an England player. But I mean, maybe that's and I'm not criticising him for this, but for so much of his career, he was kind of touted as going to be a Chelsea player or wherever, and there was always this idea that at some point he was going to leave Liverpool and leave boring old Liverpool behind and go and join one of the London clubs. But he didn't. But he was an amazing player. But you know what? We never. To the best of my knowledge, we saw him play at right back. Champions League final was one example of that. We saw him play in various places in midfield. We saw him play as up front. We saw him play in so many different places, but we never ever, from the best of my knowledge, asked him to play in two positions at once. And I think that's the crux of what's winding me up with Trent really at the moment is. We can argue whether his best positions as a midfielder or as a right back. Why argue? They're both good roles for him. He's good at both. He's really good in both places. He can probably play in other places as well. We've just got to me, for each game at least, say this is where you're playing. By all means, change it later on. But, don't expect him to do two jobs at once. And when he is doing two jobs at once, what's expected of him then from as a defender? It's not his fault if he's in the middle of the pitch when there's a break and he's not in the right back role anymore. It's not his fault. And the thing is, time and time again, we see him come back, do some covering, maybe slot into where the centre-back would be that's moved out of the way to cover his place, and he makes the last-ditch tackle and he's done it today. He makes the last-ditch tackle that, probably prevents a goal.
Yeah. Dave, this conversation started about Ibu. I put it in WhatsApp. I think he might be the most underrated player in the world because nobody talks about him. Like we mentioned, Trent playing two roles, Ibu's playing two roles, and he does it against a really good Arsenal team, and he was based near perfection today. And everyone wanks on about Martinelli and Jesus, he locked them down.
Yeah, completely took them out of the game. He is phenomenal. He is, in my opinion, if everybody's fit and everybody's playing at their best level, he is the second best centre-back in the Premier League. When you look at his skill set and what he's capable of doing, yes, he's a little bit rudimentary on the ball. But I don't care because our right-back is the best in the world on the ball and our left-side centre-back is incredible on the ball and our goalkeeper's good on the ball. So I don't need him to be great on the ball. I just need him to be rudimentary, to give it to the right person at the right time, which he does 97 times out of 100. He is dominant in the air. He is incredible 1v1. He's fast. He's strong. You cannot beat him for pace. I don't care who you are. Do you remember when we played Benfica in the Champions League in Ibu's first season and Darwin was playing left wing? and there was a long ball hit over the top. And Darwin, as we know, is lightning. And Ibu didn't just keep up with him. Ibu gave him a head start and caught him. And I remember watching that and thinking, this kid, this is Jaap Stam. Like, I think if you look at the history of the Premier League, Jaap Stam is one of the 3 best centre-backs to play in the Premier League, along with Virgil and Paul McGrath. And there's others that would then fit in after them, Adams and Campbell and Carvalho, but that's not the point. I think stylistically, skill set wise and ceiling wise, if Ibu can stay fit, his ceiling is Jaap Stam. He is that good. And he is a pure defender. And at times you need a pure defender. And don't get me wrong, Ruben Diaz is a very good centre-back. He spends a little bit too much time lying on the floor for my liking, but he's a very good centre-back. But Ibu's as good or better in the air. Ibu's as good or better a covering defender. Ibu's quicker, and Ibu's better 1v1. Now, Diaz might be slightly better as a passer of the ball, but I look at the whole side of it, like from a defensive point of view. How do you defend? And I just don't see anybody in the league other than Virgil who's better than Ibu. And you can look around Europe, and there's not a whole lot either. The only knock on Ibu is he gets injured. And a big part of why he gets injured is because of what we ask him to do. Like, if we were to play a mid-block rather than a high line, and he was just able to defend 35 yards from goal the way Rio Ferdinand and John Terry and those did many years ago, it'd be a cigar and slippers job for him to play in this league. He's that good.
Yeah, and considering the wanking over the other French centre-back, it's just very weird indeed. But again, I think if Ibu was at Chelsea, I think, again, it'd be so differently viewed. But anyway, we are on 50 minutes and not in the second half, so I've done a Trev. So I will finish up the first half. Saka foul when Tsimikas gets injured, we mentioned that. Odegaard finally gets booked. Gomez plays a free ball at Havertz. Saka and Martinelli screw up a huge chance for Arsenal. We didn't get to see it because they were showing us a replay. Thank you, Sky. But that was a huge opportunity for them, and probably the last one they had for a little while at least, or a big chance at least. Jones has a lovely dive. Endo gets booked. Havertz gets booked. That's basically half-time there.
Just before that, there was, I took a note, Gomez running towards the goal. He's on the left-hand side. He's sort of moving inwards a little bit. So it's like at perfect territory to have a go at goal with your right foot. And he looked like he didn't think he could and passed it. And I just thought, go on, Joe, just have a go.
Then he did in the second half. He started shooting all the bloody time. Definitely a word. Half time there. Into the second half then. We have a chance on the break. Dom screws up a pass to Mo. Rice gets booked. Odegaard gets caught on the ball. Endo done really well. Then the attack breaks down. Jim, just coming to you. I mean, Endo's a weird one because when we signed him, I think everyone was a bit like, who? Apart from people who've watched Japan. Obviously had a weird start to his Liverpool career. Most people thought he'd probably just be a backup. But I think these last couple weeks, I think he's been bloody excellent. And today I thought he was really good again.
Tired of ads interrupting your favorite show? Good news. Ad-free listening on Amazon Music is included with your Prime membership. Download the Amazon Music app or visit amazon.com/ad-free sports. That's amazon.com/ad-free sports to catch up on the latest episodes without the ads. Enjoy thousands of Acast shows ad-free for Prime members. Some shows may have ads.
Hello, I'm here to annoy you. I'm here to annoy you into listening to more of me and more of others on EPL Index. We don't just have the Anfield Index stuff. We've got EPL Index as well, which covers the entirety of the Premier League. And we have 3 podcasts and a whole bunch of really good writing on EPLindex.com. The podcasts are my own Two-Footed podcast, which is every day at 4 p.m, Monday through Friday, covering the whole league. We have A Tad Predictable, hosted by Tadiwa. You know Tadiwa, he does Anfield Index. He presents A Tad Predictable before every Premier League match week. And then Kevin DeVries and his crew on the EPL Roundtable, they're every week after the Premier League match week. So make sure you listen to everything we're doing on EPL Index and follow us there on Twitter at EPL Index. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yeah, and I think, I said, I can't remember when I said it a few weeks ago, he's the kind of player where you see him be good in games and then you see him have spells where he's not so good and you think, which version of Endo is going to turn up today? It's something I actually said, and maybe I misjudged him because maybe I'm sort of comparing him to players we've had in the past that have been the kind of, they come in for a fee that's not your first choice defensive midfielder fee kind of thing. A bit of a bargain. And straight away, just that fee makes you feel they're a backup, they're not the main man, and you're sort of expecting someone else to come in and be that main man. We had spells where we didn't see a lot of him. He didn't seem to play, and we wondered, you start to wonder, was it a mistake? Is he not right for us? But this is what sometimes happens with new signings at Liverpool. We don't see a lot of them early on because they're going through the boot camp, how to stay fit enough and keep up with what goes on in a Liverpool game. The last few games, you're right, he's been solid, hasn't he? I think when you talk about Van Dijk and Ibu, and Van Dijk's amazing passing and Ibu's not quite the same with his passing, but the thing is, Ibu's got a job to do. His main job is defending, and he does it so well. I think this is the same with Endo. Maybe it's not his job to do loads and loads of sort of game-changing passes and all the rest of it. He's the one who saves the game. He's the one who breaks things up. He's the one who gets the ball. He never puts a foot wrong, and I think there were almost spells today where I sort of didn't notice him, and I didn't notice him as much because he was just doing what he needs to do. He's just doing it quietly. I'm really pleased with what sort of play we've got out of him. I think if he can keep this way, I'm not saying we don't need another sort of defensive midfielder because it's a squad game, it's a rotation game. We only had 4 subs today who you would expect to, be possible swaps for who started. Yeah. And you need to have a backup, but if he is, but could he be the person who's the main man rather than the backup? I think if we can get another one as good as him, that'll be what we need. If we can get someone better, by all means. But it's the least. It's not a glamorous job that you do in that position. The glamorous jobs is what Trent's doing. It's what Van Dijk does with his passing. It's what Mo does. What Nunez does. They're all the. What Dominic does. They're the glamorous parts of the game for us. But he does that sort of less glamorous but so vital part of the game, and he does it well. I've been impressed with him.
Yeah, Dave, coming to you on Endo, he's obviously started to come into his own a little bit, but I think the knock-on effect is that once we get McAllister back, if Endo is now trusted to start games against teams like Arsenal, it means McAllister can then be rotation with Jones, presumably, and then Gravenberch, knock-on effect, could rotate with, be the backup to Dom, which seems like the ideal situation for me.
Yeah, that's what would make sense. Gravenberch clearly, if he's going to play in midfield, he needs to have 2 workers in with him because he's not going to do any of the work. So you would play him in the more attacking role, which is Dominic's role. The issue is Dominic is an absolute monster off the ball, and Gravenberch is atrocious off the ball. So even at that, we'd still be losing a significant amount, even with a kind of a defensive setup behind him. Endo, he played very well today, very, very well. But he is a backup. He's backup caliber at a club like ours. He'll give you a performance like today, and he had a really good game against West Ham, but he was dreadful against Palace, for example. So, there's just too much variance in the performance from him. And then, like you said, Alexis and Curtis for the other role is perfect. And for me, I'd be looking at it and thinking, okay, Dominic and Alexis are the starting 8s, but Curtis should be the backup for both of them. Yeah. Because I'd rather Alexis, if Dominic was out, I'd rather Alexis go into Dominic's role and be the more attack-minded one, and Curtis have that left-sided role. Or you could play Curtis in the more attacking role because naturally he is a more attack-minded midfielder than what we see of him. But Endo, like Jim said, sometimes you get lads on the cheap, and he's had an up and down start. He had some poor performances, he's had some very good performances. All we can ask from him is to do what he did today, which is to be really, really busy, to be really aggressive, to harry people, to win his challenges, and to use the ball well. And I thought, especially to like the last two games that he's played, tonight and Wednesday, I do think he's used the ball particularly well. Wednesday he was more progressive because there was a bit more space for him to move into. But I thought today he was every bit as good as Declan Rice. I've just seen someone say Declan Rice, one of the finest performances at Anfield I've ever seen. Unbelievable, to be honest. What have you just watched?
I don't remember much about Declan Rice today, I'll be honest.
No, what have you just watched? Like, the commentators were very much trying to big him up. There was one moment in the first half where a ball got floated in and Cody had made a run into the box completely unmarked and missed his header because he jumped underneath it. And Rice was behind him. And the commentator was like, Rice tracking the run there. No, he didn't. No, he didn't. The cross was just overhead. If the ball had been the right height for Cody, he scores and Declan Rice is 3 yards away. The chance we had that Trent hit the crossbar, who was it that backpedaled frantically from the halfway line all the way into his home box and invited us? It was Declan Rice. That's not good. All the good things Rice does, we saw early in the game, and then later in the game when Arsenal got a little bit more control, when Gravenberch came on. That boundless energy, his box-to-box play. But we let him off the hook as well, because he got booked today. And I didn't feel like we really challenged him after that. I didn't feel like we really... Because Dominic ran by him a couple of times first half. And I thought if we could have gotten the ball to Dominic or even Curtis running at him after he'd been booked, there was a real opportunity there to try and get him sent off. Now, of course, he's a nice English boy, so he'd never get a second yellow card. But obviously, at the same time, it would have at least put some pressure on him. I don't think he was any better than Endo today, personally. Both of them had good games, but that's maybe the most hyperbolic statement I've ever seen. That's ridiculous.
What's the price difference between them? Would you does it sound right? It doesn't sound right.
85 mil.
Endo was 18 and something Rice was 105. Yeah. So 87 million. Like, there's no way he's an 80. He's not 87 million. Like, again, his team are 6 points worse off than they were last season, and the team he left are significantly better than they were at this point last season. So I know it's nothing to do with him, but still, like, he's not this massively impactful player that people try and make him out to be. He's just a good to very good footballer, one of many, who's overhyped because he's English. Let's be fair. If he was German or Italian or French, he wouldn't be £105 million footballer. He'd be what he's worth, 50, 55, that kind of range, which is still a good to very good footballer. And at that price, you'd be happy to have Declan Rice. If he'd been 55 million in the summer, I would have liked us to get him and have Dominic and him as our eights, either side of a six. But at 105 million, it's laughable stuff. Like,
and I'm just glad that our scouts don't judge players on how handy they are for London-based press to get interviews with them, because that seems to be the sort of barometer of how good a player is. If they're handy to get on an interview, they don't have to get hyped up.
Say that, Jim. We were linked with Mason Mount in the summer.
Yeah. Anyway. That was just a joke. We wasn't really.
Yeah, we weren't moved on at the moment.
It was to make everyone else spend more money.
Well, make Man United spend 55 mil on a lad who can't play football.
Yeah, again, let's compare Endo. Anyway, let's not.
Yeah. Right, where were we? Basically, all my next notes, Jim, are poor attacking play, poor final ball, sloppy play. One of them is just more, mate. So I think that's where he just did a grass roller into the keeper. But
yeah.
We had sustained pressure basically from the second half till the substitutes, and we just never got that big opportunity, or even if it was a half opportunity, it was just a shit shot. We mentioned Salah, his basically photogenic Mo Salah goal in the first half, but after that, every shot he took, it's what we've been dreading for the last month or so. It's just, he cuts in, shit shot, straight curled easily into the arms of the goalkeeper. It's like, put some power on a shot. I don't care if it goes in the crowd. At least threaten the fucking keeper.
Yeah, and the thing is, if you put some power into a shot and the keeper can't hold it, it ricochets, then that there's someone there to mop up the pieces, or there should be.
Especially this keeper as well. He's kind of shit.
Yeah, and you win corners, you win. You might win free kicks, you might get through. You keep the ball a lot of the time. I mean, if you test the keeper, then you've got the best chance. I mean, I've written here, Salah running forward, ignores Trent, loses ball. That was on 55 minutes. And that's the kind of thing, I mean, I'm sure there's more of these notes from me where I've written this sort of thing. He feels like he's making the wrong decisions.
Yeah.
He's shooting when he should pass. He's passing when maybe he could have had a shot, but when he does pass, he's sometimes passing a bit too late. I mean, I can't remember. There was that break, I'm not sure what point in the game that was, where it was like the red arrows coming down the pitch and just maybe one defender for them. And it was Mo running with the ball. There was 3 people he could pass to, and he passed to Trent, and Trent hit the bar, but
yeah, that was 7-2, really, that one.
It just took too long with the pass, and he passed to the wrong player. He just felt, these are the moments that are kind of frustrating. But then you see him score the goals like he did, and he kind of makes up for it. But, we need to have less of those other moments, because he's not always going to get those magical moments. I mean, that was an amazing goal today. Yeah. But let's be honest, you don't get them every time, do you?
He is our only forward who knows the offside rule as well, seemingly, which is not great.
Yeah, the offsides are frustrating. Although, but there's many today. I mean, Darwin wasn't long enough to get
a bad one.
Yeah.
I think, but Gakpo didn't do anything really to do.
And Gakpo didn't know the offside rule, as Dave was saying earlier on, for their goals.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Dave, do you want to mention anything on that spell before the subs where we just couldn't really get a big chance?
We were just really good in that spell, though. Like, we were dominating the midfield. The issue was the front 3. Mo did not play well. Like, he had some good moments in the first half, and obviously scored a great goal. But his touch wasn't quite as where it normally is. His crossing was poor. His passing wasn't great. He had a couple of weak shots. And then in the second half, it genuinely, it felt like someone else came out to play. Like, he could not do anything right for about 15 minutes. Every single thing he tried, he made a mess of. And the other 2 were just completely useless. But our midfield was exceptional.
Yeah.
And our back 4 were outstanding. Like, Trent was really good. Gomez had Saka in his pocket. Ibu and Virgil were monstering all in front of them. Endo and Jones were just running over the midfield. Dominic was doing the same thing, and he was getting back to help out down our right side. But our front 3 just, like, you excuse Mo because he did score a great goal, and he's Mo.
He should have had an assist as well, to be fair.
Yeah, but the other 2 really did let us down today. They weren't the worst players that we had. There was one who was much, much worse. But the funny thing is, in the first half, we had a moment where Ben White lost the ball up at our box and then fell on the floor and faked an injury. And we broke down the other end, and Mo tried to slip in Cody. And if Mo had just got his head up, there was a simple ball across to Diaz, who's unmarked. And I do just wonder, like, little moments like that where someone else picks the wrong option, and now, that maybe would have changed Diaz's performance if he'd gotten a goal. Because there was certain little things he did that looked really bright. And, like, even Gakpo, there was a couple of moments where he held the ball up really well against Saliba and looked to bring others in. And then it's just more and more inept muck, which is what we saw from them in the second half.
Yeah, it was, unfortunately, and those performances did lead to the subs. Just to go through them, Elliot, Darwin, Grav came on for Diaz, Gakpo, Jones. Diaz did get hurt. I haven't seen anything mentioned from Twitter notifications or in the chat on Discord, so I'm guessing it's not too serious, but I'm guessing we were thinking about subs anyway. But Elliot looked like a last-minute thing, but Dave's obviously alluded to them, Jim, but what did you make of those subs and how they changed the game going forward?
Yeah, I don't like digging players out, especially young players that have got plenty of time ahead of them, but I'm not sure what Gravenberch is meant to be doing at the moment, but he doesn't seem to be doing anything right. I've just been really disappointed with him in recent games, and I think the sad thing is, as a manager, if you're the manager, you've got to look at this and think, right, well, what do I do? Do I keep him out of it for a while? Do I drop him? Do I try him? Because there's a good player in there. He's just not bringing it with him. You know, he's just not bringing that to the game with him. I can see why they made the changes. I mean, I think, as we said at the start, we would have had Nunez playing on the left from the off if we. Well, many people I've spoken to as well would have said, let's start with Darwin out left. So that one made sense. Diaz hopefully not injured, but I think he would have been coming off anyway. The players were already warming up to come on, stripping off to come on. And Elliott, I don't know whether the idea was for Salah to move to the middle, because Elliott was so impressive in midweek on the right-hand side. And when the African Nations comes up, maybe there's some thinking that that's what his role's going to be when Salah's out. But it just, I don't know, it just took away. We've just spoken about how good the defence was, and we've spoken about how good the midfield was, and it was a midfield and the defence that was making sure we had a bed to build on and creating things for the front three that the front three were messing up. And maybe that's the issue. I mean, Gakpo and Diaz went off, but we didn't sort of get massive improvements. I don't think Nunez really got into the game. Elliott, again, just didn't really get into the game, and Gravenberch just, if anything, weakened our midfield. And it feels like, at that point in the game, that could have been the point where you change the game. You bring those subs on and change the game. You got fresh legs. I did feel that all the pressing we were doing, all the tackling we were doing, from that point on, it just seemed to disappear. Now, whether that was just the subs or whether that was just because we put so much into it for so much of that.
We definitely slowed down on the ball as well, I think.
Yeah, we just really slow. They couldn't cope with us. They could not cope with us when we were pressing, when we were digging in the heels all the time, when we were just constantly winning the ball back. Over and over again, we were winning the ball back. Even when the front three messed up and we lost it, the midfield would go and win it back again. And when the midfield couldn't do it and he got to the back, you'd see, Ibu tracking back and making the perfect tackle, and off we go again. It just all stopped with the subs. And I don't know whether it is just down to the personnel or whether there was some kind of tactical thing done to say it, because it feels like it's literally a line gets drawn between we're really good attacking and dangerous and we're not good at attacking and dangerous, and if anything, we're a bit vulnerable. And that, it just feels like there was a line drawn with those subs.
How's your money feeling? It's about to feel happier with a certificate from Happy Money's partner, Michigan State University Federal Credit Union. Elevate and increase your savings with 18-month terms and only a $500 minimum. And the happiest part? MSU FCU certificates yield 4.5% APY annual percentage yield. Now that's a happier side of money. Elevate your savings. Go to happymoney.com/MSUFCU. That's MSUFCU. Funds insured up to $250,000 by NCUA. The APY is accurate as of the 12/1/2023 dividend declaration date. Early withdrawal penalties do apply. Fees may reduce earnings on the account. Any monthly withdrawals or transfers reduce earnings.
I don't need a VPN. I've got nothing to hide. This is what I used to tell myself before I hooked up with LibertyShield.com. Not only is my home internet now fully encrypted, but I can now access all the websites I want, whenever I want, and do so from absolutely anywhere. As a Liverpool fan, I love to know I can now watch every match, regardless of whether it's on UK TV or not. My Liberty Shield VPN makes sure nothing is blocked and guarantees me super fast streaming speed throughout that match. You can get connected right now with their software package, which includes a 48-hour no-obligation free trial and instant access to their apps for Apple, Android, Fire TV, PC, Mac, and Android TV. Or go a step further like I have and get one of their pre-configured VPN routers. These small but powerful devices allow you to easily connect every device in your home to VPN, making it the perfect solution for smart TVs, Mac boxes, and games consoles. Visit LibertyShield.com today and use coupon code AIVPN25 to get 25% off at checkout.
Yeah, Dave, anything you want to
add? Yeah, I agree. There was the moments we actually got Darwin involved, he actually made things happen, but we just didn't get him involved enough. And when Mo went central, he just looked completely lost, to be honest.
Yeah.
He looked knackered as well. He genuinely looked tired. But, it is what it is. Like, we played basically with 9 men for a chunk of the game because the 2 boys up front were so poor. But at least they were working. Like, Diaz at least was tracking back. He was giving a dig out to Costas and then Gomez. Gakpo was dropping into midfield and he was pressuring Rice and, doing kind of not a particularly good version of it, but a version of what Bobby used to do. But when the other fella came on, like, Jesus Christ, like, there's literally nothing you could say about his performance that was good. Nothing. Every single part of it was horrendous. His first touch was abysmal. His dribbling, which is the only thing he does really well other than he's got a great first touch, was poor. He was lazy. His body language is atrocious. He's standing around. The only time he actually broke into a sprint was in that 4v1. That's it. Other than that, he was loping, or as my mother-in-law would say, sleuthering about the place. That is as like, I think he completed 8 of 12 passes. Gave the ball away 6 times. He's only on the pitch 20 minutes. How do you give the ball away 6 times? And like everything was bouncing off him. He shit himself out of a couple of tackles. He was a little bit lucky not to get injured by Saka when he slipped, but he still shit out of the tackle. Go in and fucking level him. Or go in and make him kick you. He's already been booked. Go in and take his fucking yellow for the team. Or let him take a yellow. Take the kick. But I don't know, like that fella's not for me at all. Like he's worse than I thought he was going to be. I thought the talent would override a lot of the negatives, but it's not even coming close. And as I said before, we spent years saying Jurgen Klopp would never sign a Paul Pogba. Well, he has, a less talented version of one. So, it's a little wonder that the game petered out when that's what you bring on to replace a guy in Curtis who was playing so well and bringing such energy and intensity to our team.
Yeah, it does worry me. I mean, especially with McAllister injured, Thiago injured, and probably others. Besetic injured.
It's one of those that if Gravenberch should come from the academy and, same kind of age, come through the academy, been loads of hype about him because people who'd seen the academy play, the under-23s play and all the rest of it thought he was great. And he'd come into the squad and been given the chances he's been given now. There'd be no sort of complaints about him quietly dissolving back into the academy, would there? That's how bad he's been since he came, and that's a worry. There is still time for him to come good, but for the money we paid, it shouldn't be taking this long, and it shouldn't be this bad when he's not. When I say come good, I mean come brilliant. He's not anywhere near coming good yet.
Yeah, well, 40 million. I know we've spent big on some players in recent years, but he must be in our top 10 transfers, surely.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I'm losing my touch. Maybe I'm losing my touch with the value of money because I was dragged around the shops today and I saw a turkey for 118 quid for a turkey.
Oh.
And I don't know.
Was it massive?
It didn't look that big to me. I mean, my God. That's why I don't go shopping. I'm a vegetarian after seeing that, I'll tell you.
But what's really concerning to me with Gravenberch is, he's young. Like, he is young. He's only 21. He'll turn 22 in May. But, he's got a lot of football under his belt. 103 games for Ajax, 34 for Bayern. So he joined us with 137 games played. He's now played 20 games for us. So you're talking 157 games, and yet he's still a very immature footballer. And he still hasn't figured out that, you need to work really hard off the pitch. And again, there's a reason that 2 very, very good managers got sick of him in a year. Like, Nagelsmann and Tuchel, they're not Klopp-level managers, obviously. I think they're both very, very good and potentially could get to that level someday. But they both just gave up on him. Curtis Jones has played 114 games, so 37 less. So basically a full season less. And look how much more mature he is. Look how much more hard-working he is. And there's an old saying that hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. And Ryan Gravenberch is a more talented footballer than Curtis. But Curtis is a much, much better footballer because of the graft he puts in.
Yeah. Thing is, if
you learn lessons, don't you? Curtis Jones learned lessons. He didn't always play to his best, and I think he went off and he worked hard, and he picked up on advice that he was given. And what worries me about Gravenberch, I mean, at the time I kind of thought I'd kind of praise him for it, but when he joined and he got in trouble with the Dutch national team because he didn't go on international duty because he was looking for a house, and I thought, well, good on you, because what the hell have they got to do with anything? This is a big move for you. But then you're starting to think, is this a bit about him that he knows best and he doesn't take advice on board? I don't know.
He's the same player as he was when he was 17. Like, he's exactly the same player now as he was when he was 17. Whereas Curtis Jones is a completely different player now to what he was at 17. At 17, he was a goal-scoring left winger / attacking midfielder. Now, from a defensive point of view, he's the best or second best defensive midfielder at our club. He's a totally different player. He's done the Ginny Wijnaldum transformation, whereas Gravenberch is still the same player 40 years later.
If Curtis could go back in time and talk to his 17-year-old self, he'd have a list of advice for him, whereas Gravenberch should probably go back and say, you're all right, carry on as you are.
Yeah, just ignore
the crap. My main worry is, if it was just something as simple as getting used to the pressing, like we've seen players in the past, like better players, more established players come in and it takes time to learn the pressing, but his technical should be brilliance isn't shining through. We've seen players at times who are excellent footballers, but they still need to learn our system. And it doesn't look like the only time he's really dominated a game is against lesser opposition in the Europa League. There's no one like that in the Premier League except, well, we've dropped points to fucking Luton, so I can't even say that. And
he was atrocious in the game.
Yeah.
So
he only plays well in massive wide spaces as well. When it's tight, he's fucking awful.
In the Premier League, the only time he's actually played well was that cameo against City. And I must re-watch it, but it might just be that we're judging it based on the couple of dribbles that he had, like the couple of runs that he made, because that's what he can do, and he can be so good at that. Like, there's a reason he's been hyped so much since he was 16, 17 years of age. Like, there's no question that he has immense amount of ability, but you look at him and he's 6'3". I think he's won 5 aerial duels in the 20 appearances for us so far. He's 6'3". And he doesn't tackle, he doesn't track runners. The lads on Under Pressure have been a bit kind to him. They haven't really done a deep dive yet on his pressing numbers, but I would guarantee you that they're some of the worst they've ever seen. And there was a number going around, I don't know how true it is, but there was a stat going around about 2 weeks ago that he was winning something like 11 or 12% of his duels. You're 6'3", you're a big physical unit. How is that happening? How is that happening? How are you not able to enforce your will on the game purely by your size and your physical capabilities? We've seen mediocre midfielders come into this league. Like Abdoulaye Doucouré hasn't got 1/10 of the talent that Ryan Gravenberch has. But yet he knows how to use his size and his speed and his strength. And Gravenberch doesn't. So he ends up relying on his technical ability. But when you have a game like today, when his technical ability lets him down, you get that. We've seen him have many, many games of 70-odd% pass completion. And that's not acceptable either. Whereas you've got Curtis, who's regularly in the 90%. And it's not like Gravenberch is trying all manner of crazy inventive passes. He's not doing the things Dominic or Trent are doing. It is a concern. And you're right, he doesn't understand the system or the shape yet. Then don't play him. Don't play him. You didn't need, that's exactly it. But you didn't need to bring him on today. Curtis was fine. Curtis was playing well. He wasn't tiring. He wasn't looking like he was running out of steam. But 2 minutes after Gravenberch came on, he was looking like he was exhausted, having made one run back into our box, he was kind of puffing for breath. Like, you've been on 2 minutes.
Yeah, and I know the Elliott sub was probably forced by the Diaz injury. I don't know if you're going to want to do the change because Jones played 90 in the middle of the week. Bring Elliott on. He's played the system. Maybe you have to swap Dominic over, but it's someone more used to the system than Gravenberch. But anyway, don't want to get back.
Yeah, the fact we've only got 4, as I said, 4 players that you would expect to be potentially in the starting lineup on the bench, and he's one of them. I think when everyone's fit, it's a question whether he's even going to be on the bench. And this is why he's got to take his opportunity now.
Yeah.
Because these players are going to come back, and he's not going to have a look in if he doesn't improve.
Well, that's the thing. I think, touching all the wood, Thiago is apparently back in the new year, which could mean any month of the year, multiple times of the year.
Could mean any new year. Yeah, it might not be this new year.
Absolutely. It could be any club as well. But Basic news has gone very quiet, hasn't it? Alexis McAllister shouldn't be too far away, but we know what we do. We like to lie about injuries. And God forbid we might actually sign a midfielder. So you are right there, Jim. He might fall down on that 40 mil. Like, I really hope, because that's basically what we've alluded to. We want him to do better because he's very fucking talented, but he needs to show it on the pitch, or he is going to fall down the pecking order and probably end up on loan at Feyenoord or whatever, and we'll never see that money again, because that's how our transfers go. If they don't work out, we lose a big money on them. Or he'll leave on a free in 4 years, like our other fucking ones. Anyway, we're basically in the last spell of the game now, and Arsenal do come back into it a little bit. But Elliott comes on. He has a deflected shot that hits the post. I don't think it was ever going near the goal, but it hit the post anyway. Got a corner. Then 2 minutes later, Dave, we have that big moment where it's the 4v1. And the ball just bobbles up, but Trent's so technically brilliant. He should be able to control that. Just put your laces through it, a la Leicester those few years ago, and just smash it in the bottom corner. He just got over it, or got under it, and just went over the bar. It was just a really crap finish, Dave.
Yeah, he should do a lot better. He really should do a lot better. I get that the ball bobbled, but I don't care. You're 8 yards out. The ball is perfectly in front of you. You're a player of immense technical ability. You should be putting that away. And we would have deserved that win. Like, we deserved to win the game today. We were the better team for the longest spell of the game. And unfortunately, that was the big chance that came, and it just, it wasn't to be.
Yeah, that's the thing. Jim, anything you want to add on that? I know you touched on it a bit earlier.
No, I mean, it's just, I always try and look for ways to defend our players, and I think the only defence I had is there's two ways of looking at it. One of them is thinking this keeper's going to fly towards me, I need to get it over him, and that was the wrong choice because he could have got it under him. The other one was maybe he's thinking, my God, how good's this going to look when it smashes the roof of the net, but just slightly misjudged it. I think it's just one of those moments, isn't it? In games like this, and especially games like today, how many real clear-cut chances did we get? We didn't get many, and when we get them, you've really got to be better at taking them. And the only other defence to Trent is maybe he was surprised it was passed to him because he was like the fourth player along or something, wasn't he?
Yeah, maybe there was just simply too many bloody people there. Maybe we just needed someone to hang back so it was a bit more obvious, but that's kind of a shit excuse, to be fair. You should just fucking score. Next note, Gomez forces a save. It's coming. Money against Burnley scoring because he'll have to bloody play now. Darwin has a header. I think it just goes over. Havertz asks for a pen. I think it's Trent who... It's just not a foul. Then I have a note that just says fucking Manc referee. I can't remember what it was for, but it was one of the many, many, many decisions he gave to them. Then we got a foul. Then my next note's Gravenberch's been a mess, but we've not talked about that. Basically, my last note is the Saka. I don't think it was a straight sending off, but it was clearly a second yellow card. There was only 2 minutes of regular time left, but that should be a second yellow card, Jim.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's just, you just can't complain. I mean, I think we sort of surrounding when Curtis, when he got his red card earlier in the season, there was an element that was sort of, there's a limit to what you can do when you're touching the ball and, your feet can go a certain way. Everyone was kind of defending Curtis for that. And this was just, it was just clumsy. It was just the best you can say. It was clumsy. It probably wasn't as filled with intent as it kind of looked. I mean, the fans in the ground who didn't see replays will be fuming with it and wondering what the hell happened with that ref, and he will definitely be known as the mank bastard from now on because of that. But even allowing a little bit for the slip, it still wasn't that he was in control. He was out of control, and if he'd have been in more control, he wouldn't have had that slip, and that could have been dangerous. And you tie that to the tackle, the lunge, the throw, whatever you want to call it, that left Tsimikas in hospital. There were so many decisions like that where the ref just didn't bother getting his cards out. And it's convenient as well, sometimes that when it's only a yellow, there's no going back to it, is there? So, if you give a yellow, they very rarely go back and turn it into a red. If you don't give a yellow, you can't have a hindsight kind of second yellow. It doesn't make a lot of difference to us if you get sent off.
Wait till you see the Forest game on Match of the Day. There was a yellow card, right. Second yellow card in that is absolutely scandalous.
But our ref won't get any attention then. He's not enough to get attention.
He not a sing. They'll probably mute the crowd shouting it and probably just skip that bit out. But the ref won't good to do.
It's just frustrating. There's just so many of them, and I'm sick of talking about referees. But we can't blame the referee today for us not picking up the point. So that's the other thing to say about this is there was so much. I'm trying to find my other notes I'd written because I feel like I've written loads. I mean, I'm not sure why Salah got booked, because I don't think it was. Was he booked for dissent or booked for the foul?
So I think he got. I think it was for dissent because he started doing Italian hand signals at him, didn't he?
Yeah. My God, you can't do that. But he seemed to have an outrageous decision, and as bad as Mo's been, he doesn't tend to complain about things that weren't worth complaining about.
He really does.
But it was just frustrating, ref, as always. As I said, I think he's just trying to even up the score because his mates down the pub 5 miles away from the Etihad will have been telling him off. But I'm only joking.
Only half joking. Dave, I mean, that was my last note. Anything you want to add, and then finish up with plugs and anything you want to let people know about?
No, like I said at the start, just I feel like it's 2 points dropped, and then you look at the United game, that's absolutely 2 points dropped, especially considering what they did today. If anyone wants a good laugh, do find the post-match interview with Eric Ten Hag when he was asked about United's performance today, and he said we put in a really solid performance. And the girl doing the interview was so taken aback that she had to repeat it back to him. She just, in complete disbelief, said, "You think that was a solid performance?" And it was like, do you remember when we lost to Everton and Hodgson came out and said it was the best performance of his time at the club?
Totally.
And Jim, I think you were on the podcast when it was being discussed. Rory Smith was on with you guys, and Rory said that the journalists were basically like, "Roy, are you sure you want to say that?" Yeah. Like when you're around a really old person and like they do something mad and like you're like, are you really sure you want to do that? Like that just seems mental that you'd want to do that. It was kind of like that. It was kind of like she was his carer trying to interview him and save him from embarrassing himself, which obviously the journalists had to do with Roy when we had him. It was really, really funny, but really bizarre as well. I mean, it's 4 points dropped over this Christmas period. We're second by a point. We should be top by 3. We should be 3 points clear at the top of the league. And that's a little bit disappointing. The Costas injury is a big, big blow because I'm guessing Robertson will be back in January, but
I think so, yeah.
I don't see him being back. I mean, you look at our fixtures, he's obviously not going to be back for the Newcastle game. I doubt he's back for the Arsenal game in the Cup. So I'm guessing it's probably Bournemouth on the 21st is the likely return of Andy Robertson. So we've got 4 games to get through, including the Fulham first leg. And Joe Gomez is going to have to play, or like you guys said earlier, one of the youngsters is going to have to play. And, it's a big ask for them. But the plus side is we get through Burnley, and then this club and this manager and the people around him, they have an opportunity here to show real ambition and go and do what's needed and get in a couple of players, because we need a couple of players. And if they do what's needed, or even half of what's needed, if they even just get in one good addition, the title is right there for us.
Yeah,
it's right there for us. Now, there's always the possibility City come back and run off, 16 wins out of 18 or something, and with a win and a draw on the other two, and just run away with it like they did last year. But it feels like there's a real opportunity right now for us. That Arsenal team, I don't believe in them. I really don't believe in them. And I'm looking at Jamie Carragher and others saying that the 4 centre-backs put in master classes and such. The few moments that we actually got at that back four through avenues other than Salah, there was quite a bit of panic defending from the Arsenal side of things. And I feel like had we been on our game, we'd take advantage of that. And I do think other teams will take advantage of that.
That's what I was going to say. I think we've given people a blueprint today on what the weaknesses are with Arsenal. Yeah. We didn't capitalise on them. We didn't, make the most of them. But we showed
where they are.
Shown them. Yeah.
And the other thing with them is they can't score enough goals. Like it was the same against Brighton. They went 1-0 up. They dominated that game. Unlike today, they actually dominated that game. They couldn't find a second goal. And Pascal Gross misses a sitter. And it should have been 1-1 before the Havertz goal, which might not have happened if it was a draw. Brighton might have been more set defensively and trying to take home their point. I think this Arsenal team can be got to. And their Champions League campaign will get a lot harder when it comes back, because they're not going to be playing. They got a Europa League group, let's be fair. It was very, very easy for them. And I think they'll beat us in the FA Cup, and I'm quite happy for them to beat us in the FA Cup. So they'll have to deal with that going forward as well. So things will get tighter for them. They'll have more injuries. They've been very, very fortunate so far. There's a real chance for us here, a real chance. And we know we've got 2 cups that we're in a great position in the EFL Cup and the Europa League. We're in a great position to win both of them. But the league is really open and really, really there for the taking if we do what's needed. And there's a couple of players out there who would fit us like a glove. So hopefully the club do what's needed. As for me, nothing until Thursday. So enjoy your Christmases. Eat, drink, be merry, all that good stuff. Don't drink and drive. And, enjoy the time with your families and your friends. And if you're having a tough time, or you're maybe by yourself at Christmas, if you're on Twitter and you follow me, just reach out. Always available. If you just message me or tweet me till I see it. And, I'm always around for chat if anyone needs a chat around this time, because I know it's tough for a lot of people at this time of the year. And I can only point you in the direction of my friend Damo, who's currently living his best life in Mexico because he didn't fancy Christmas in wet, windy Ireland. So, take a lesson from the great man, or take a lesson from Downey. Christmas dinner on the 23rd. He'll have the tree down tomorrow, and then he's away. He's ready for the new year. No messing about with Trev. Be like the boys. Take care of yourselves, folks.
Yeah, echo that same thing. If anyone does struggle, follow me. Most people on AI are sound as well. Say most, figure out who the bad ones are. They will be there for you. Jim, same question to you. Any last thoughts and plugs over the Christmas period?
Yeah, I mean, it's Christmas is normally the time when it gets mad, when you feel like you've got so many games close together, because they always try to squeeze the extra Premier League game in. You've got League Cup games, and in our sake, it's good. In our case, it's good. We've got extra games in January because we're doing well in the League Cup, and we've got them to look forward to. I agree. I'm not that bothered about the FA Cup. I mean, it's a nice to have if we can beat Arsenal, great. But I wouldn't want to risk too many players in that, because we are looking a bit threadbare, and there's a risk we're going to be really threadbare. We do need to spend some money this window. In a lot of ways, we've got to this position at Christmas, being second, a point behind Arsenal. In a lot of ways, I wouldn't say by luck, but a lot of good fortune, because I don't think anybody expected us to do this well at this point in the season when that transfer window slammed shut back in September. So it's been a bonus, if you like, that we've done this well. And I just hope that the powers that be with the checkbook aren't thinking, oh my God, look how well we've done. We don't need to spend money. You do need to spend money. It's a bonus that we've done this well with the money that was spent and the players that we're missing and the holes that we've got in the squad. The fact we haven't got enough players on the bench, and we're going to have, you know, by the looks of it, we'll have 3 players on the bench in the next game that maybe could have got a start. So
maybe 2 if Diaz is injured.
Well, yeah, that's it. And it's just dwindling and dwindling. And that's not allowing for anyone who's like, you know, done in after playing 90 minutes today. So we've got to, you know, we've got to strengthen the squad and extend the squad and make sure it's big enough with quality. But all that said, you know what? It's disappointing. 2 drawn games, 4 points drops. I get all of that. But it still feels like there's something here with this side, and there still feels we've got that fight in us somewhere. We're getting things wrong, but we're gradually fixing them, and we're getting somewhere with it. The front 3, yeah, they can't keep on all being not good enough at the same time, and sooner or later one of them's going to start firing, the other one's going to join in, then the other one, and then, you know, maybe it'll just peak at the right time. But yeah, same here for me. Probably going to do a Scout of Tommy's midweek after the Burnley game. There's one now if you want to listen to it, obviously looking ahead to the Arsenal game, which we just had, so you can laugh at how wrong we might have been, see what you agree and disagree with. But we will be back this week, I think, talking about the Burnley game and looking ahead, I suppose, to the New Year's Day clash against Newcastle. But that's next year. Echoing what you two have just said as well about Christmas, it is a tough time. I just hope, as well as having people to talk to, and you can find people, there's always one of us will talk to you, we'll always find the time. But I'm hoping Liverpool can be the distraction from anything that's getting you down, you know. Burnley next, let's give them a hammering.
Yeah, they had their win today. Let's ruin their post-Christmas celebrations. That is it till after Christmas. So everyone who celebrates, etc., Merry Christmas from me. Merry Christmas from everyone at AI. Trev is back for Boxing Day because, as Dave said, he doesn't do Christmas normally. He's done. He's already done. He's probably put the tree away already. But it is me, Trev, and Carl, I believe. So we will be there for the Burnley game. We will see you then. Merry Christmas, everyone.
We hope you enjoyed listening to this Anfield Index show. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel so future podcasts find their way to your device automatically. There's nothing quite like fan engagement, and we'd love to know what you think of anything discussed on this show. The best way to get in touch is over on our free Discord community, where both podcasters and listeners debate the hottest LFC topics 24/7. Sign up free now at AnfieldIndex.com/Discord. You won't regret it. You can also follow us on Twitter at Anfield Index and find us on Facebook by searching for Anfield Index. Oh, and before you go, we'd love it if you could leave us a 5-star review on your favourite podcast app. It only takes a couple of seconds, and it means the world to the people who create these free shows.
Sports Social Podcast Network.